Hi, Elaine here. Today I'll be sharing how to create customizable music notation pages in Affinity Publisher. Even if you're not musically inclined, I guarantee you'll learn some unusual and interesting ways to use tables if you follow along with this video. Let's get started. I need a single A4 page. I've set the colour to RGB. The margins are equal at 10mm left, right, top and bottom. And I don't have a bleed, it's for digital output. And create. The first table I'm going to create is for the stave. Over to the table tool and draw that out. I need 4 rows and 1 column. But I want it the full width between my margins. Then I'm going to select all 4 rows. Using the table panel, I'm going to ensure that the height of each of those rows is quite small at 2mm. And that is the first stave. I'm going to toggle the preview so we can actually see that. And what I need to do is remove the borders on the left and the right hand side. Selecting all 4 rows and using the stroke and fill section, making sure that I've selected here left and right, which is known as outside vertical. And then, colour doesn't matter because I'm actually going to turn it off. When I click away, we now have no left nor right border. And that is the first table. But we need 12 staves on this page. Now the first thing we could do is power duplicate, so we've got 12 of them. But you know me. Power duplicate's great, but sometimes there are better ways, and this is one of those occasions. What I'm actually going to do with this first table is name it so I know that it's the stave, and then I'm going to toggle it off. Because what I'm going to do is to create another table. Getting the margins back so I can see what I'm doing. And this time the table needs to be 1 column and 12 rows. And then it needs to be the size that my margins are marking out. Like that. Now this table is going to be a layout table. You're wondering, aren't you? So we don't forget that, I will call this layout, and I'm going to bring the stave back, the single stave we've created, but move it to the top. And there it is, sat on top of the other table. This is where the magic happens. I'm going to take that stave table and cut it. The next step is to nest the stave table inside the first cell in the layout table. Now these tables are just tables. I'm using different terms so you can understand what I'm doing here. This is the layout table. I'm clicking in the cell. I do need to select all of these first and make sure that I've got the alignment set to middle. And then in that first cell, I'm going to paste the stave table. The stave table is now a nested table inside the layout table. And I need to do that for each of these rows. Now clicking away, it looks a little bit complicated. There are 12 nested tables nested inside the layout table. To see that, let's have a look at the layers. And the layout table's at the top, and there are 12 cells in it, with a stave table nested in each one. The layout table does not need any borders of its own because it's only going to be used for layout purposes. So selecting them all and using the option for all borders and turn them off. And now when we look at it, going into preview so we lose the margins as well, you cannot tell that you are using the layout table to host the individual stave tables. And this has the benefit that if you decide that you only want 10, just delete 2 rows and resize the table. If you want 14, add 2 extra ones and resize the table. And that's why this method is much better than power duplicate. That was nesting tables. We're now moving on to another type of table. Best thing I can do with this layout at the moment is to lock it, because I don't want it to move. What I do need to do is to make yet another table. Get my margins back so I can work with it. This one also needs to be 1 column by 12 rows. And it needs to be exactly the same size as the layout table. Like that. I also need in this top table to make sure that just like the other one, this one is centred vertically. Again, I don't need any borders on this. Selecting all the borders and then turning them off. And it's still there. This is our table, but there's nothing to see at the moment. Now I'm calling this table a stacked table. It is not nested inside the layout like the stave tables are. It's sitting over the top of the layout table, so it's stacked on top of it. Now I need to go and get a graphic, which I have in Affinity Designer, and this is the treble clef. Making sure I've selected the graphic and copied it, and back in my stacked table, I'm going to call that clef so we know exactly what it is. Back in there, I'm going to paste that clef, and I'm going to do exactly the same 12 times. Make it a little bit faster. Once I've got 6, select the 6, click in number 7 and paste them all in. Good, but we can do better. We can finesse that even more. Zooming in a bit, the clefs are placed correctly vertically, but they could do with being indented a little. And we can do that en masse. Clicking the table to select it, in the cell section of the table panel you have an option for insets. They are linked together, and as I increase that, I'm moving them all in from the left edge by 3mm. They're also moving in 3mm from the top, the bottom and the right. But obviously for our purposes, given where they're placed, the fact the left edge is moving is the most obvious. And Command and 0 to see the whole thing. So 3 types of table we've worked with there. We have the nested tables, which were the staves. Each of those was nested inside a cell inside the layout table. Then we have the clef table sitting on top of the layout table, so that is a stacked table. One thing to be aware of. Normally at this stage, I would recommend, in the Pages panel, moving the design from a standard page to a master page, and that way you can apply it to as many pages as you like. However, in this circumstance, don't do that. While Affinity Publisher is quite happy with nested tables on standard pages, do not try placing them on master pages. Affinity Publisher throws all its toys out of the pram. Sometimes it looks like it's worked, sometimes it will even apply to one or more standard pages. But trust me, it won't end well. Affinity Publisher starts running really slowly and has been known to crash. So in this circumstance, I would place the design directly on the number of standard pages that you need. So let's have a quick recap. In this video, we learnt about the power of 3 tables: standard tables, nested tables, and stacked tables. I created a table which was for a single stave, 4 rows by 1 column. Then I created a second table to act as a layout guide. I cut the single stave table and pasted it into that layout table 12 times. So the stave tables were nested inside the layout table. Then I created another table which was stacked on the top of the layout table and placed the clef into each cell. So it sat over the top of the stave tables inside the layout table. One warning, do not add nested tables to master pages. It never ends well. But apart from that, have fun and do share with me your final designs. If you want new tutorials and tips and tricks on a regular basis, check out my free training at elainegiles.com/VIP. Hit the subscribe button and notification bell so you don't miss future tutorials. And if you have any requests for specific tutorials, be sure to contact me. I would love to hear from you. Thanks for watching and see you next time.